Is the Schiit affordable DAC domination over? All this and more. So sit down, grab a cup of coffee or a cold beverage, and let's see if the king of affordable hi-fi has been dethroned. Three Schiit products to talk about today: the Magni, the Loki Mini, and the Modi Plus. Yay! We're going to talk about all these products versus their predecessors, but mainly we're going to talk about the DAC. Magni Plus, $109. The Modi, $130, $29. And the Loki Mini, $150. So you get a DAC, a headphone amp, and an EQ for less than $400. This isn't just about headphones though, because the Loki Mini and the Modi Plus really can go in any system at all. And I would recommend them, not just for headphones, but for 2-channel as well. Or even adding to an AVR receiver if you want to up your DAC game and you don't have an EQ. If you're new or you're not subscribed, please consider subscribing. I do this for a living, so it makes me feel good about myself when you subscribe and like the video. Maybe share it out to a friend or two. We have over 600, I think 40 videos. So chances are there's something here for you. DACs, amps, turntables, headphones, turntables. So thank you for watching, and please like this video. Let's go quickly through some Magni specifications. This is the headphone amp. 2.8 watts into 16 ohms, 2.4 watts into 32 ohms, 1.6 watts into 50 ohms, 410 milliwatts into 300 ohms, and 215 milliwatts into 600 ohm loads. It's a ton of cheap power. Comes with a 6.35 millimeter single-ended headphone jack and 3 levels of gain. And then a very nice volume control. On the back, very simple, you have RCA in, RCA out if you want to use this for a preamp. And then you have the power toggle right here on the back, which some people don't like. I don't mind, especially if you're going to have this on a desktop. And let's be serious, you don't really need to ever turn it off if you don't want to. It's not like this thing's going to be putting out a lot of heat or draining your electric bill. Maybe. The Loki. One of my favorite components that you can get is $150. It's a 4-band EQ. There's not a lot of EQs or affordable ones on the market anymore. There is one from Bellari. That's very nice. It's red. There's this one from Duke Audio. It's also affordable. Like it too. But the one thing that differentiates this one from the others is a 2K adjustment, 2000 hertz. And I love that adjustment because for me, that is where fatigue really sets in. So I like to have a fatigue control. Just frequencies that this hits: 20 hertz, which is down deep low, 400 hertz, which is lower mid-range E, 2K, and then I believe, yes, 8K. So you're not going to have super airy, but it does cover the majority of the frequencies that one would want to adjust. And it's not super heavy-handed either. 12 dB of gain on the bottom and the top, and then plus or minus 6 dB in the middle. So 400 and 2K, plus or minus 6 dB, and plus or minus 12 dB on 20 and 8K. There's a lot of old EQs especially that were guilty of just having an inordinate amount of boost and cut. And it really could introduce a lot of distortion. Best practices is to get the EQ looking how you want it, and then bring the most boosted to the 12 o'clock position and then adjust the other ones down. That way you are less likely to introduce a bunch of distortion. This great product, I love it. I love EQs because EQs can fix a lot of speakers. The Modi is oftentimes my de facto budget recommendation for a DAC. And it's not just good on a budget, it's good period. This little thing is a gateway into high fidelity, audiophile bliss. It is very, very good for $129. Previous iterations had a tendency to be, I would say, sometimes a bit hard on top. So I was very interested in getting the new one in to see if it is different from what I remember the previous Modis being. This now has a Sabre 9018 chipset. They used to have a lot of AKM chipsets in here. This also comes with their USB Unison technology, which I don't know much about USB, but I know it can be a bear to work with for audio. This is trickle-down technology from some of their higher-end products. I personally don't use USB very often, but I can see that this is going to go on a desk, oftentimes right next to a PC or a laptop. And that is probably where most people are going to be using this product. Most people. Having a good USB is really key. I don't know what the benefits of Unison are. I know it's a big deal though, because it is a USB protocol that I think Schiit created for their own products from the ground up. And it's cool that it's included on a $130 product. But you probably want to know how this thing sounds. So let's talk about how it sounds. First, on the back, RCA output. One full-size coaxial input. One full-size optical input. One USB-C input. And then one USB-C power plug. This works off of 5 volts. Which means it's easy to switch power supplies. You can get a low noise switching power supply from Hifi for about $60. You can even get a linear power supply with a toroid if you want to. That's going to be a lot more bucks. But 5 volt for the power supply opens up a lot of opportunities for upgrading said power supply if you want to. I just used a regular wall brick, cell phone charger type of thing that came with it. I think it sounds fine. I used the Meze 109 Pros on this, as well as the Hifi Edition XS, as well as having it hooked up to this beautiful Kenwood receiver. The Weem Pro was feeding it optically into this, and this was going out RCA, obviously. That's the only way it can go out, into the Kenwood. The immediate thing that I noticed was that this is a little bit more natural sounding than the previous generations of the Modi. Wasn't as hard on top. Is that because of the different DAC chip? I don't know. They also use analog summing, active filtering based on They also use analog summing, I'm reading this, active filtering based on OPA. With all that mumbled jumbled word soup, here's the takeaway. This sounds more natural than the previous generation Modis. And those sounded good and were a significant step up from something like the internal DAC on a computer or a laptop or a phone or a tablet or a TV. Big step up. This is another leap forward when it comes to affordable DACs that sound awesome. Still leans towards exciting on top, but much more organic sounding. When the Modi first came out, it was competing with the Sanskrit from SMSL and some of the topping stuff like the E30. I would push people down a flight of stairs to get this one instead of a Sanskrit or an E30 Mark II. This one sounds way better, way more natural. Still heard some sibilance issues. Alanis Morissette, MTV Unplugged, King of Pain, that's recorded fairly sibilant, and it did come through on this and the Magni and everything else in the Hifi Edition XS. The Hifi Edition XS, though, they don't hide a lot of sibilance. It was much less pronounced on the Meze 109, much less pronounced, I couldn't really hear it that much, on the Wharfedale Denton 80th Edition through the Kenwood. That's a long way to say I think the Modi is way more balanced than it was in previous generations. It's just gotten better. The price has increased marginally. I think it used to be $99, it's $130 now. That may be a 30% increase, but when we're talking about components that are around the $100 range, that's still the best deal in town. And it's made in the US. These are made in Corpus Christi, Texas. And if you want to, you can check out a tour I did. I'll link it right here because it was a really cool kind of peek behind the curtains. They sell a ton of these. I still think to this day, it is the best deal for affordable DACs. No remote control, no fancy filtering, no volume control, just a DAC. So you're gonna have to do volume control through something else. But you can also look at the Saga, you can look at the Lear, you can look at other things that have a volume control or a remote control. You can even hook up a Weem Pro, and apparently there's a Weem Pro and it works on the Weem Mini remote control as well. If I can find that, I'll link it. But you can control the volume digitally through the Weem Pro. So what are my final thoughts? For a complete stack that is about the size of the cheeseburgers that I like to get, look at this. I could almost get this whole thing in my mouth if I wanted to. Schiit is still the uncontested king of affordable hi-fi. And I think affordable headphone amplification. There are other options that are cheaper as far as headphone amps. But look at this. Why would you want to break up this trifecta of happiness? You don't need an EQ if you don't want to. I personally love EQ. I had this stack years ago, before the channel started. This was my stack. It was silver. I like the black now. I also like the styling with the indented S here for Schiit. I don't think you can overstate how important Schiit is as a company and how they kind of set the bar when it comes to affordable made in the USA products. It's crazy to think that this stuff is made in the US. If you have a headphone or a speaker, it's a little bit fatiguing, really exciting on top, I would definitely get the Loki Mini so that you can kind of dial that back a little bit. Although this is not as tilted towards the top end as some of the previous generations, it still does not scrimp on the top end detail. As far as soundstage and air goes, I feel personally like the latest generation of the Modi is bigger, larger soundstage than the previous. Is it as big as some other DACs out there? No, but those are also 4 times, 5 times more expensive. I think is untouchable when it comes to affordable DACs. This whole stack is awesome. And if I didn't have the Lear Plus, I would just keep this as my reference desktop stack. I also love the Gishelli Labs. This is probably going to a friend of mine who's just getting into hi-fi. So to answer the question, has Schiit been dethroned as the budget audiophile company to beat? No, they have not. They are solidifying their position on top of the hill when it comes to not gatekeeping this wonderful hobby. Schiit has ushered in an entirely new generation of younger hi-fi enthusiasts, and they should be commended because of it. So, if you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night, we have Patreon-only Zooms, Patreon-only Discord, Patreon-only Facebook group. You can also use the links in the description. However, I'm not affiliated with Schiit, which means if you click and you buy, I don't get a commission, but it doesn't matter. You should still get their products. You can also sign up for Amazon Rune or Tidal. Links in the description. Click sign up. They usually have a 30-day trial period. Even if you quit, I still get a couple of dollars. And you can use the thanks button down at the bottom of the video next to the share button. Buy me a soda. But don't feel compelled to buy me anything. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen maybe through your incredibly affordable cheeseburger-sized Schiit stack and fill your soul with happiness. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.